She was telling her story to the priest. She had died. She had clinically died and was dead for several minutes before the doctors resuscitated her. And as she was telling the story, she said, you know, what happened when I died is there was light and there was warmth and there was love. She said, and I didn't want to go back to life on earth. I didn't want to go. It was full of love and light. And she said, the thing that's so hard about it, it changed my life amazingly. But the thing that's so hard about it is I can't really express it to anybody else, because what I experienced there was how incredibly close God is. She said, you have no idea how close God is. You can't even imagine how close God is to you. I was there and I experienced it. She said, you cannot even imagine how close God is. God is closer than our very breath. She said, that is what is so frustrating, is I want to share that with people. But how do you get that into words in such a way that the other person experiences the same thing? I can't get it across to people how close God is to them. In our gospel, we have the disciples having their transfiguration experience. And in the gospel, the same Jesus that they've been walking around the world with, eating sardines and pita bread and lentils, and they've been having dinner or breakfast, lunch, and dinner with him every day for years. That same Jesus is suddenly transfigured. And they see now the glory of Christ flows out of his body, and they see what was always there. It's not a different Jesus, it's the same Jesus. They're just seeing his glory revealed that was hidden to them before. And it's the same way with this woman. She's seen for a moment. It's like a curtain has been drawn away, and she sees for a moment. She feels deeply for a moment how close God is. But God had always been that close to her. She just hadn't been able to experience it. She just hadn't been able to see it that way. And so this woman has had her own transfiguration experience of where the same old things are all of a sudden revealed to not be the same old things, that they're actually full of mystery and awe and plus and more and extra and not just, they're actually filled with the divinity of God that is hidden from us most of the time. But once in a while in our lives, a veil is drawn apart, the curtains are opened, and for a moment, we see the divinity that is shining through that we are normally blind to. And so in these experiences, and we all have them, we don't have them, we don't have them as dramatically as Peter and James and John on the top of the mount. We don't have them as dramatically, perhaps, as this woman who has been declared clinically dead and resuscitated. But we have our own experiences where this happens, where the ordinary all of a sudden is revealed to not just be the ordinary. And we know that there's nothing in this world that is just what it is. There's nothing in this world that is just what it is. There's a plus and an extra and an overflow of the divine in everything because God created it all. There's a wonder and a glory that can shine forth from everything. I mean, can you actually think that a human person is just Gloriana? She's just Gloriana. No. Gloriana is a mystery. And if we could see the full glory of what it is to be Gloriana, it would shine forth. And so we all have those experiences. Maybe it's when maybe it's when a mother has her first child and they first bring it up to her face and she can see their face. Maybe it's when, maybe it's when we're on a retreat and we've gotten silence, we've closed the door of everyday life, we've put it in the drawer and we've forgotten it, and we've had a release from the everyday practical world. and we're just in that place with God, and all of a sudden we get a glimpse of the glory that fills everything that we just don't see on a daily basis. Maybe it's the first time we fell in love, and we know that we're in love, and it's not just a crush, because we can feel that a love has taken over what's best in us. All of a sudden, we're not just wanting to be the best person we can for that other person, but we're also wanting to be better for everybody. We're more patient with everybody. We're more kind to everybody, because what is best in our soul, what is highest in our souls, has been taken over by a love. And we fell for it. We fell for that love, and it's taken over. And all of a sudden, a person who's in love sees the world very, very different than a person who's not in love, because a person who's in love is transformed, and they live in a transformed world. And all of a sudden, what was always there is revealed as something completely new, filled with a glory and an awe, and a light shining forth, and a warmth that we didn't see before, but it was always there. And so in these experiences, we can see it's the same in our gospel, but it's the same in our own lives. We see three things that happen. The first is, it's always an experience of the fact that God is so close, that God is closer than we can even imagine, and that we are loved by God. And that no matter how bad we feel, no matter how discouraged we are, no matter how depressed we might be, no matter how difficult we might feel that things are, God still loves us and is unimaginably close to us. That's what all of these experiences that we have say in one way or another. And we know from our faith that we cannot do anything to make God love us more. And we cannot do anything to make us love God less. Let me say that last one again, because we don't believe it. We cannot do anything to make God love us less. I could do a lot of things that would make me love God less. I could make God disappointed in myself. I could make God angry in myself, but I can't make God love me less than God loves me. God is love, and God doesn't do anything but love. And so there isn't anything we can do to make God love us less. This is how much God loves us all. How are we going to do anything to make God love us more than that? It ain't possible. And the very idea that we can do something to make God love us more is called heresy. Because God already loves us with all of God's love. And when we live a sinful or a life of violence or hatred, I've changed my love. I haven't changed God anything. I haven't changed anything in God, not God's love. I don't change God's love. I don't have that kind of power, and neither do you, or neither does anybody else. So these experiences are always in one way or another, God saying to us, I am incredibly close to you. You cannot imagine how close to you I am. And no matter how you feel, the truth is you are loved by God. The second thing that these experiences say to us is, and you can see it so beautifully in the gospel with Peter, who says, this is great. I love being on top of the mountain. We're not leaving, Jesus. I'm telling you what, I'm going to build us some 3 houses here, and we're not leaving here because I love it. I like it up here. And so, Peter's like us, he just all of a sudden he takes center stage. Nobody asked him to make a big gesture, but he takes center stage, and it's like, boy, we're not leaving here. But the truth of all these experiences, no matter how wonderful they are, no matter how high the mountain is that we experience, we must come down off the mountain. We can't live up there. We don't live up there. And in our gospel, Jesus leads his disciples back down into the valley. We don't live. The love of God is something that we must work out in our everyday, ordinary, average, plain old lives, because that is the main place that God meets us. Those moments where we see what was there all along, what they revealed to us all along, that God was there all along. God was just as close to us, more than we could imagine, and God always loved us. It was just veiled and hidden from us. And the third thing that we see in these experiences is they can't talk about it. One of the Gospels, Jesus even tells them, don't tell anybody. And that's because, like that woman, we can't get it into words that makes people have the same experience we had. It had to be there. And so, rather than talk about it, we fall into silence like the disciples, and we let it sink in. And we're able to go back to those experiences of transfiguration in our own life. We're able to enter the scene again where that happened, and we are able to let sink into the cells and the bones and the blood of our body the wonder and the awe and how close God was and how much God loves us, and the light and the warmth. And we let it sink in, because that's the strength we're going to need for the everyday, average, plain old life that we're going to have to follow. We need some of those experiences once in a while, but we can't live there. We don't live on the top of the mountain. We have to come down into the valley, but we don't forget them. We can always go back to them and let them go deeper, sink deeper into our hearts and souls and bodies and minds. So let's come to this altar today. Let's come with the insight of that woman who died and was resuscitated and who wanted to tell us so bad but couldn't get across to us. Let's come with her insight that we have no idea. We cannot even imagine how close God is to every one of us all the time.